What is going on, ladies and freaking gentlemen? We are back again with another 90-day fiance video. And this one is an interesting one of how it came about. And I have to give you this little background story, backstory, not background. And well, I decided to track back on the very first episode of 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days because I wanted to find out and investigate if how Memphis was looking then compared to how she was looking when she first arrived in Tunisia to meet Hamza. And the reason why is because, you see, there's this thing that they do in the acting world, more predominantly in TV series. If an actor or if an actress ends up being pregnant, throughout that season, what they will do is they will then layer her up with extra clothes or give her an accessory like a big bag to cover up her stomach. So I really wanted to see if that was something that I was going to, find out throughout that video. But then I came across something far more interesting about Jasmine and Gino. And it's crazy because Jasmine, in my opinion, is arguably one of the most manipulative cast members that I have seen on 90 Day Fiance. But don't get it twisted though. We will get down to the investigation of Memphis in another video. It's just that I got sidetracked with this one. And I noticed Gino's body language, and then I also noticed Jasmine's body language. And it told me that, well, we've always wondered, why is Jasmine still with Gino? With everything that he has put her through, with the nudes and everything, we're thinking to ourselves, surely she must be a gold digger or something. And I believe I've come to the conclusion that it's not about her being a gold digger. It's about the fact that she loves this one key thing called power. We can even call it control, which comes underneath power itself in particular. But before we get into some of the footage of what I was able to capture from episode 1 and episode 9 more specifically, because those are the episodes where in reality you will just know when you see them. But let's give a big massive shout out to every single person that is a member of the freaking channel. Now, with that being said, we're going to head over now to check out exactly how Jasmine was behaving and how Gino was behaving in the first episode. I want to break down their body languages. And it's going to tell you guys why I believe that her whole agenda was in general to just control the narrative in terms of how we viewed her, and then also control the narrative in terms of how Gino should behave underneath her orders. I believe that's the right term, orders. Sounds a bit savvy, but I'm going to run with it anyway. But let's get into the first clip.
What have you been doing?
I just ordered some food and I'm going to go pick it up.
Okay, you don't know the ending.
I know the routine. Okay.
First things first, show me the evidence. Second thing, I know the routine. What man at 50 years of age says, I know the routine? Where he's only just met this woman. They've only known each other for a certain amount of time. But here's the thing though. Was Jasmine trying to keep an eye on him because of her own insecurities? Or was it her way of just making sure that she had this power against him? I mean, listen, maybe she wanted power due to her past. Maybe that was her thing moving forward because she'd been hurt. She wanted a man that she could keep under surveillance at all times. Because that is definitely the vibe that I was given in this clip itself. But, of course, there is more.
She says, evidence report. So usually when I go out, I'll send her a screenshot or check in with her because she wants to know where I'm at all times.
Now, disclaimer, this is me not saying this in terms of me saying that this is true, but throughout the season, many people did speculate that they assumed that maybe Gino may have been on the spectrum. And the reason why I've got to point this out is because, you see, me, myself in particular, I have worked with many people that are on the spectrum, both children as well as adults. And there are certain tendencies that sometimes you just cannot ignore, and you just have to sit there and think to yourself, I believe that this person may just be on the spectrum. But of course, disclaimer, I'm not saying that I'm an expert at actually diagnosing anyone. I'm just someone that has experiences of working with many people and also being friends with many people on the spectrum. So therefore, I'm able to identify or at least notice when something, when they do something or they behave in a certain way, whether that be by how they respond, how long it takes them to respond, their mannerisms, their body language, their hesitance when they speak, their lack of emotion in confrontations. Because remember, when you're on the spectrum, when it comes to confrontation situations or empathy moments, it's a very hard thing for someone to do on the spectrum. That is something that I did learn on my level 1 course, to be fair. But nonetheless, though, again, this is not me diagnosing Gino, but I'm saying that as I watched Gino, I sat there and I said to myself, I don't believe this is a man that was doing certain things out of ill intent. I don't believe he was out here to purposely try and embarrass her by trying to send nudes to someone else. I generally do believe that the reason why he sent the nudes, even though it was wrong, was purely because he wanted to show off his new girlfriend. But why? Well, here's the thing. Gino was a very broken man. In the very first episode, he talks about how he was married to a woman from Brazil. They were together for a couple of years, but then it just didn't work out, so they went separate ways. Now, throughout that journey, he was then unable to find himself an American woman, as he said. So therefore, he decided to go to other resorts, and that involved him going on dating apps. And those apps happened to be sugar baby apps, where obviously he met women and XYZ. And the thing that's quite ironic is that, where did he meet Jasmine? He met Jasmine on one of the sugar baby, sugar daddy freaking websites, you see? And it's crazy because throughout the whole season, Jasmine did everything in her power to manipulate the narrative about how disturbing and disgusting she was that Gina was a part of that type of world. Meanwhile, that's where she met him. But then she always made him feel like as if he was the one in the wrong, and then made us forget that that's how she really met him in the first place. So therefore, how can she judge him for being on a sugar daddy websites when that is where she found him? That's because, you see, Jasmine is someone that, in my opinion, done some very interesting, what I'm gonna say, did very incredible manipulation, purely because, you see, even I forgot at times that that's where she met him, and even I forgot at certain times about how she behaved in certain aspects, which made us all feel like as if Gino was just this man with very interesting tendencies that were very, But understand this is not me defending Gino in any kind of way, but I'm trying to say to you that I feel like the narrative against Gino was plotted against us even more by Jasmine throughout the season, because just like Mike, she wanted to be seen as the saint. Difference is, she done a far better job than what Mike did, which is why we was able to still call him out, but then kind of give Jasmine a pass and say that Gino was the biggest problem within their relationship, when in reality, the biggest problem was both of them, but the biggest manipulator was definitely Jasmine. But we'll get into more evidence. Let's just move into the next scene. And, oh yeah, this one,
But if I don't send her text or photos, she can really get upset.
It's quite interesting because in that very first episode, he talks about how she can get very upset. Let's talk about Jasmine whenever she got upset with Gino. And this is something that I noticed within this season. So within the first episode, and then going back to episode 9, when she had the big outburst against him. All of her outbursts were very, very controlled. When you pay attention closely, these were not outbursts of actual real, in my opinion, anger or upsetness or betrayal. These were, okay, this is my opportunity to show him that he's wrong, so he can understand that he's underneath my control, that whatever I say goes and whatever he does is a no-no. And I say that because, you see, even though this video is sped up for copyright purposes, of course, understand just the way she talks down to him. In fact, throughout the whole season, she spoke down to Gino as if he was a child, as if he was not worthy to even be around her. You might think I'm crazy, but that's exactly how she was. Let's think about it, especially at the tell-all. At the tell-all, when Gino was trying to say certain things or whatever, even though we know that Gino was automatically always going to lie. But let's talk about that though. Why was Gino so adamant to lie so many times when he was confronted by Jasmine? Simple. Because, you see, Jasmine never allowed him to feel as if he was allowed to be truthful. She told him that she doesn't like liars, but it's the way she went about it. She put him in this spotlight, in this peer pressure moment, or this peer pressure mentality of that if you lie to me and I don't like what you're going to say, I'm going to get very angry. Hence, in that scene there, he references to the fact that, you know, if I don't do certain things, she gets very angry. And we all know, or at least we should know, anyone that's been in a relationship with someone that gets angry quickly, they make us feel as if we just can't breathe. They make us feel as if telling the truth just isn't worth it because we're afraid of just the drama that's going to come with it. And that is something that Gino was 100% afraid of. But also, not only was he afraid of that, but bear in mind, going back to what I was saying before about people on the spectrum, when it comes to emotion, that's not something that they understand or are able to deal with or are able to show very easily. And if you notice throughout some of the scenes I'm going to show you, Gino, each time he was confronted by Jasmine, showing any form of empathy or sympathy or anything, whenever she was shouting against him, notice how he just shut down. He was shut down to the extent where he's just a bit like, but it's not like, how can I put it? This can happen to anyone despite whether they're on the spectrum or not. But when you've worked around people, you know the difference, which is annoying because I can't really explain it to you. I can, but let's not get there. I don't want to, get a bit, yeah. Nonetheless, though, let's proceed.
Were you talking to her that much?
What do you mean? I...
Oh my God. Whatever. I'm gonna be tired.
Okay.
Now, you see, at that moment, you didn't see that puppet, I cut it out. But obviously, he says, I'll talk to you later. She was like, I'm going to be tired. Understand this. The reason why she's done this is because she wants to make him feel like utter crap. Now, don't get me wrong. There were many times in relations where it's not about being manipulative. Sometimes you just want to make that person feel your pain, so you behave in a certain type of way, which is quite normal. But with Jasmine, though, I noticed that it wasn't a case of her doing it because it was just a way of getting a reaction of a reaction. It was a way of her doing it to get a reaction that meant that Gino understood one thing, and that is that she is in control, that he is underneath her thumb, and he must obey everything that she says. But here's the thing, though. The reason why it was always a constant battle with Gino throughout the whole relationship with Jasmine, and this is where Jasmine was unable to understand, was that, you see, Gino cannot, or at least from what I've noticed, he cannot process emotions the way she expects him to. And that is where she's obviously kind of, that is where she's misread the situation. Because if Gino was someone that was able to process emotion the way she would like him to, understand that his reactions would have been very different throughout the season. But every reaction he always gave was always one of the two. Is either or it was go for the lie. But again, the lie is not because Gino is someone that generally is a liar. It's just that he's so afraid to do wrong because he doesn't want to lose this. Because he doesn't want to lose this amazing woman that he has met online that he never thought he could get, and that's completely out of his own league from his own mouth, as he says. So bear that in mind, and that is something that Jasmine knows very, very well. So therefore, she used this against him throughout the whole season. But again, at the same time, though, when it came to the cutscenes, when she was talking one-on-one with us viewers, she always made sure her wording was always in favor of herself. So therefore, we could forget how they even met in the first place. And most importantly, we can also be blind about how she always spoke to Gino. At the very first episode, a lot of people was not a fan of her because we noticed how she spoke to Gino. She spoke to him as if he was a child. Somewhat, you can even say she even spoke to him as if he was a pet. But of course, throughout the season, she was able to flip the script. And by the end of the season, a lot of people kind of looked at him thinking, okay, Gina's the one that's the and she's the one who's actually the saint. When in reality, it's not about whether Gina's a saint or not, or whether she's a saint or not. It's about the fact that Gino has a lot of bad habits that he needs to get out of. But at the same time, though, throughout the whole thing, she had no intentions of actually really falling in love with him for him. She just wanted to find a man and wants to be with a man that she can simply control because power is her only best friend at this moment in time. And I can only say that, and the only reason why I think Power is only best friend is I do generally believe that the only way she believes that she can never be hurt again is if she controls a man. It's either that, or generally she's always been a very cold, vindictive, controlling person. You never know. But now let's get into some of the clips of season 9, okay? And that's when we first experience the screen her already go into complete meltdown. But I want you to notice her body language to the build-up of the meltdown and how I say, and how I've been saying that it was all controlled, and how episode 9 links up to what Gino told us in episode 1, that if I do wrong, Jasmine would just boom. And I want you to realize that how he changed. Here he was obviously doing everything okay. He wasn't lying to her. But in that episode where he obviously revealed, where it's found out that he had been sending nudes to someone else, just notice his lack of emotion. And then notice obviously how he's able to then, how he then tries to cover the situation with a lie. But just pay attention. Let me not say too much, but let's get it.
Naked pictures of me? What?
No, I'm sorry, I did not do that. That's
Bear in mind, you see Gino's expression. Very... Sadly, I'm not Gino, and I can't really do him very well. I do apologize. But you see the way his reaction isn't a reaction of emotion. It's a reaction of more, I just need to cover this up as quick as I can. Because that's all he knows. So therefore, he goes into the lying mode, which obviously he knows Jasmine doesn't like, but he can't help himself because he knows that if he tells the truth, Jasmine's going to go, which eventually does happen, as we know. Because you see, Gino doesn't really know how to handle these situations, you see. But of course, that is on him. That has nothing to do with Jasmine per se. Well, she's put the fear in him, but that is more on him not being able to be a man. Not being able to be masculine and say, you know what? Yes. And that is obviously where he lacked a lot of qualities. But I want you to notice her body language right now. Because notice that when she's first speaking to him, she's looking at him. She has a certain level of rage, but then she also has a certain level of calmness. Then I want you to notice that when Gino looks down, all of a sudden... pay attention, please.
I did.
Shop, and I have never sent these notes to anyone but just to you. Look!
You can see it right here. That moment, he looks down, boom! All of a sudden, the tears begin. Manipulation. To the max, to be honest with you, I've been through it myself, to be fair. If somebody tries to manipulate and then you catch them out. Oh, I love catching them out in the end. But here's the thing though. You can see it right there. The whole thing with Gino, it was never really about whether she loves him or whether he loved her. It was always about how can she get one over in him? How can she add more and more fuel to allow him to become more under control underneath, you know, for her to control him even more. So that's what happens here within this part of this scene. Now, what we're going to do is we're now going to fast forward ahead to the scene when she then initially has the actual meltdown, okay? And I want you to notice what she says beforehand and then obviously how she then behaves once she gets there. Because remember, in the cutscenes, those are the scenes where she says everything that she wants us to hear to manipulate us so we can be on her side. And don't get me wrong, the things that she does say, not necessarily in the cutscene, but the things that she does say when she approaches him, even though they are quite factual, you know, either way, they're not being said because she's this genuine person. She's saying it because it's all about power, control, manipulation. But let's get into it.
After all this sea of lies, I'm done with this guy. I will never forgive him. But I want to confront him and cause as much pain as he has caused to me.
Right there. What we want to hear. What we should hear. Manipulating the narrative to us. But don't get me wrong though. Everything she says in that scene, it's not that it's incorrect. It's just that it's interesting that she talks about how she wants to cause as much pain to him as he has to her. But it's not about that. That is just telling us, that there is telling us so we can be on her side to a certain degree. I wasn't really on her side because I was thinking a grown-up wouldn't really do that. They would just walk away. But of course, for her, it wasn't about causing pain. It was about going back in there and making sure that she was able to take back that control. Okay? Because the fact is, even though she says that, she still ended up doing what? She still ended up being with him. So let's get into the rage, please.
You did things behind my back, and I was here napping, and you two were testing.
You see that moment in time where she freezes. She has a breath, doesn't she? If the video wasn't sped up, you'd realize how many seconds she paused. It's because she's doing what she can to stay within that character. And the character isn't just for Gino, but it's also for us herself, because after that, she then goes back into boom.
You made me look like the crazy, explosive Latina that for no sense. I have
Yeah, well,
such a good memory.
that was a joke.
Oh,
That wasn't true.
I'm laughing out loud. It's a joke.
Yes.
You're so funny. Excellent. That was a joke.
Now this is the part where she says everything that, again, potentially is true, but it was all to make him feel like absolute crap. So therefore, he would have a reason to want to be very apologetic as always, and therefore have a reason to bow down to her as always. So therefore, she has that complete control against him as always, because that's all the relationship has always been about for her. You can say I'm crazy and I'm wrong, but I feel like the proof that I brought to you guys is nothing but solid.
You are depressed and you're sick. I need to move into a new room. I can't deal with this level of stupidity.
You see? Those words there? To be fair, they were just the beginning. Now, this is the part where she starts to really put into place how much of a disgusting man he is for going on these sites to find sugar babies or whatever. But this is where I really caught her out the most. Please, bear with me on this one.
I don't give a
No, I'm saying
I never thought of you as this depressing man that get old and has to pay for sex and company.
You see the part where she talks about this depressive man who had to pay for sex and company. Here's the thing. In the very first episode, Gino provides us with an image of pills, blue pills, okay? And he said he hadn't been active for many years because, you know, he had been single and whatnot, and he needed them just in case, obviously, they got funky because, you know, X, Y, Z. Now, throughout that time as well, and this is the key part here. In the tell-all, she expressed how much he was not sexually active, and now she felt that maybe he preferred to play with himself more than he did with her. So here's the thing though, we know that he was never paying for sex, because at the end of the day, one, he already said it prior in episode 1 that he hadn't been active for a very long time, and also then 2, she then confirms it at the tell-all by telling us that he wasn't that active. And we know Gino finds it attractive. It's just that Gino is just Gino. Why he doesn't really get funky, that is just unexplained. But either way though, her saying that she was only saying that at that moment in time only because she wanted to, one, make him look bad to all of us. So therefore we see him as a man who's paying for sex as if he is Mike, when in reality that was Mike and not him. Okay? And also, let's not forget though, in the tell, Jasmine did say that his lack of sexual activity has always been like that since day 1. So why would he pay for sex if he's someone that barely even cares to have it majority of the time? Which is therefore proof that he isn't. But again, the narrative there was for her to say to him, one, to make him feel like absolute crap, but at the same time, to make us view him in a certain way. Because think about it, when the tell-all came, we was already just to see Gino get it. We was also ready to see Mike get it too, but Mike just didn't get it, which is annoying. Really and truly, the treatment that Gino got should have been the same treatment that Mike got. Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying that how Gino was treated was incorrect per se. What I'm saying is that Jasmine done a very good job of making sure Gino was going to be under the bus and she was going to be Sky and she was just going to be chilling. It's crazy though, because that's what Memphis would have liked for herself, but she noticed that she was the one who was going to get the grilling, so she decided to get up and leave, if you know what I mean. And notice this as well. There's always been this comparison of obviously the creeps of the show. But notice that, you see, Mike, when things got tough with him, he actually did show emotion. 1 minute he ran away like a minion. Next minute he's telling people to shut the F up on the tell-all. Next minute he's like, you can't do this and that. I'm not going to get out of this house, I pay for it. Gino, throughout every single part of the season, no matter how many times he was confronted by Jasmine, whether it was her being super angry or not, each and every time, he always had this emotional thing. That is a quite key thing for people that are on the spectrum. But again, disclaimer, I'm not saying that I'm diagnosing with anything, but understand that Gino's actions were due to predominantly, one, not knowing how to really process emotions, and two, also being put in a position where a woman has made him feel as if he can't really breathe the truth when the truth is wrong. So if he did something wrong, he just could never say the truth because he knew the truth would hurt her or would push her away. But this is the reality though. If Gino was smart enough, he would have realized that this woman was never ever going to leave as long as she was in power. Because at the end of the day, Jasmine's had she's had so many times to leave, but she has always stuck around. And again, I don't think it's because she's a gold digger. I believe she has stuck around purely because of that simple thing called power. And that's it. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you are thinking in the comment section, and we shall certainly talk about it. But hey, like, subscribe, and peace.